Hello guys, and welcome to today's maths lesson, which sees the third lesson of unit 9.12, and today we're going to be learning how to add and subtract algebraic fractions. So that's your learning objective for today, to know how to add and subtract algebraic fractions. But first we're going to start with the knowledge retrieval activity. So if you can please start with these 6 questions, just pause the video here for about 10 minutes. And then we'll move on and give you the answers in a sec. So pause the video now please for about 10 minutes. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, so here's your answers to the knowledge retrieval. So please mark these with a green pen. Hopefully you've paused the video for 10 minutes and you've tried all these questions, and hopefully most of you have answered at least most of them. But please mark them in green pen now, give yourself a score out of 6, and then we'll move on. Did anyone manage to get a 6 out of 6? If you did, you're doing really, really well. So, as I said previously, we're going to be adding and subtracting these algebraic fractions today. And this is the first example. You'll notice we've got 11a over 15 plus a minus 7 over 15. Now, algebraic fractions are just like normal fractions. When we add them or when we subtract them, we have to have a common denominator. And you'll see we've got that here. We've got 15 on the denominator of both fractions. So adding these two fractions together, they already have a common denominator. So simply what I have to do is add these two numerators together. So I'm going to start by writing this as one fraction, and I'm going to start off writing 11a plus a minus 7, and I'm going to write that all over 15. I've just combined the two fractions into one. They had a common denominator, so I can do this. Okay? And now we look at this numerator. It's just a simple matter of collecting like terms. So we've got 11a plus a, which gives 12a, minus 7, and that's all over 15. And then finally, just last step here is just check this can't factorise, which it can't, because 12, 7 and 15 share no common factors apart from 1. So this is my final answer. So it equals 12a minus 7 over 15. Can you please pause the video here guys and copy this one down and then try the we do for me, and I'll go through that one for you in a sec. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at the we do, and again it has a common denominator. So first step should be to write it all as one fraction. So I'm going to write 11a plus 6a minus 7, and that's all over 15. And again, the reason we can do this is because they both have a common denominator. So now I'll collect the like terms on the top. So 11a plus 6a gives me 17a minus 7, and that's over 15. And that's my answer. So please make sure to mark this in green pen. If you got that right, you're doing really well. Fabulous work. Give yourself a big tick. If you didn't manage to finish that, or you were a bit stuck, copy this one down, compare it to mine, see if you can spot what we're doing here, and see if you can use this example on the next one to help you out. So we'll move on to the next example now. Okay, so I've got another example here, and again I've got 11a over 15, and on the second fraction I've got plus 20 minus a over 15. So I do have a common denominator again, which is helpful, but the numerator looks a little bit different this time, and we'll see how we deal with that. So first fraction I've got 11a, and then on the second fraction I've got 20 minus a. So again, because these have got a common denominator, I can write this as one fraction. So I'm going to write 11a plus 20 minus a over 15. And then from here it's just about collecting like terms. So I've got 11a, I've got minus a, so 11a take away a gives me 10a, plus 20, and that's over 15. Now, there was something I said for the first example, and we couldn't do it in the first case, but in this case we can. Have a think for a moment. What does this answer need doing to it? So have a think for a moment. What does this answer need doing to it? Any ideas? And you would be correct if you said we should factorize this. Okay, so 10a, 20 and 15 all share a common factor, which is going to be 5. Okay, so I can divide all of this by 5, divide the top by 5 and divide the bottom by 5. 10a plus 20 divided by 5 gives me 2a plus 4, and 15 divided by 5 gives me 3, and this is my final answer. Okay, 2a plus 4 over 3. So once again, please pause the video there for a sec, just work through that, give yourself as much time as you need, and then please try the we do, and I'll give you the answer in a moment. Okay, and if we go through the we do, we've got 11a over 15 plus 10 minus 6a over 15. We've got once again a common denominator, so we can write this all as one fraction. That should be your first step each time on these questions with the common denominator. 11a plus 10 minus 6a all over 15. So then collect the like terms, so we've got 11a minus 6a, that leaves 5a, plus 10, and that's all over 15. And once again, this is a good answer, but it can be better. What does this answer need doing to it? Think for a sec. And again, you would be correct if you said simplify. 5a, 10, 15, again, share a common factor of 5. So if we divide the top and divide the bottom by 5, we're left with 1a, or just a, plus 2 over 3. And that's my answer. Okay, so on this one we've got 11a over 5, subtract 10 minus 3a over 5. So the first difference you might notice on this one is that we've got to subtract to begin with. Okay, and this is the third example, this is the final one we'll do for the moment, and you've got to be really careful with this subtract sign because we've got two subtract signs in here, and remember what happens when we minus a minus. But we do have 5 on both fractions, so we can write these two as one fraction over 5. So I'm going to start writing 11a, and it's minus 10. This is where we need to be really careful because we're subtracting this fraction, so we've subtracted the 10, but here because we're minusing negative 3a, that's actually going to turn into positive 3a, so we need to be really careful there. Okay, so now we're going to collect the like terms. 11a plus 3a gives 14a minus 10, and that's all over 5. And then finally with this answer, just check, can you simplify this? 14, 10 and 5 have no common factors except for 1. So no, we can't simplify this any further. So please pause the video here, copy this down, be really careful with that double negative sign, and again it appears here in the we do, so be really careful with that. Okay, pause the video here, copy down the I do, try that we do, I'll go through it in a moment. Okay, so on the we do, again we've got 8 as a common denominator, so we can write this all as one fraction over 8. So I've got 9a here, minus 10, and then because it's minus 6a, this is going to turn into a plus. Okay, so it's plus 6a. From here, collect the like terms. 9a plus 6a gives 15a, minus 10, and that's over 8. And this cannot simplify because 15, 10 and 8 share no common factors apart from 1. So if you got this answer, really well done. Give yourself a big tick in green pen. And now I'm going to give you some independent practice questions to try out. Okay, so here's your questions, your first set. There's 6 questions there. Please pause the video here. Try as many of those 6 as you can. So you should pause the video for about 10 minutes now. Okay, and for answers, so get ready for the answers. Make sure you got a green pen ready. Here are your answers, so please mark those for me. Give yourself a score out of 6. Okay, so let's move on to a slightly different type of question, and just look at this question here, this first idea, and just pause for a moment and ask yourself, what's different about this one? What's different to the previous examples we were doing? Right, and if you said that in this case we have uncommon denominators, you would be correct. So that should be your first step, okay? Getting the common denominator, get both fractions to a common denominator. So the first fraction is 8 on the denominator, the second one's 2. So first thing you should do is say, what's the lowest common multiple of 8 and 2? So lowest common multiple of 8 and 2, it's going to be 8. Okay, this fraction already has 8 on the bottom, so I'm going to leave that as it is, 11a over 8. The second fraction, 4a over 2. Again, we need to change this to 8 on the bottom. So how many 2's go into 8? Well, 4 do. So we've multiplied the bottom by 4. Let's do the same to the top of that fraction. Multiply it by 4. So 4a times 4 gives 16a. Okay? So 11a over 8, we kept the same. We've now turned 4a over 2 into 16a over 8. These two are equivalent fractions. So now we can add them together, plus 16a over 8. And if we write that as one fraction like we did previously, it's going to be 11a plus 16a over 8. 11a plus 16a gives 27a over 8. And now what you need to do is check, can this simplify at all? 27 and 8 have no common factors apart from 1. This can't simplify any further. So this is my answer. Please pause the video here, copy this one down, and then try that we do, and I'll go through it in a second. Okay, so your first step should be saying 8 and 4. What's the lowest common multiple of 8 and 4? And again, it's going to be 8. Now this first fraction already has 8 as a denominator, so that's fine. I can leave that the same. The second fraction has 4, so we need to change that to something out of 8. Well, we've doubled the bottom, so we need to double the top. 4a times 2 gives 8a, so I've converted 4a over 4 into 8a over 8. And now I can add them together because they have a common denominator. So write them as one fraction, 11a plus 8a over 8. 11a plus 8a gives 19a over 8. And this can't simplify, so that is my answer. Moving on to the next one. So here we've got 11a over 5 minus 4a plus 2 over 2. So again, uncommon denominator. So pick the lowest common multiple of 5 and 2. Have a think about that for a sec. And the lowest common multiple of 5 and 2 is going to be 10. So we're going to convert both these fractions to something out of 10. So for the first one, it's 11a over 5. We want to convert it to something over 10. So we've doubled the bottom. So we need to double the top as well. So 11a times 2 gives 22a. And then for the second fraction, it's 4a plus 2 over 2. We need to convert it to something over 10. So we've timed the bottom by 5. we need to also times the top by 5. So 4a plus 2 times 5 gives me 20a plus 10. Now they've got common denominators, we can add them together. So I'm going to write 22a over 10 minus 20a plus 10 over 10. Write this as one fraction, so we've got 22a minus 20a minus 10, remember, because it's minus a positive 10, so it's minus 10 over 10. So 22a minus 20a gives 2a minus 10, and that's over 10. Over 10. And then this can simplify. If you divide both top and bottom by 2, that gives 1a, or just a, minus 5 over 5. And that's my final answer. So guys, please copy this one down and then try that next one for me. Right, so in the next one, they're both out of 6. So your first step should be saying, what's the lowest common multiple of 6 and 2? And it's going to be 6. Okay? So first fraction stays the same, 11a over 6. The second fraction we need to write out of 6. So we've times the bottom by 3, we need to do the same to the top. So 3a plus 1 times 3 gives 9a plus 3. And we're subtracting these fractions, so 11a over 6 minus 9a plus 3 over 6. Write those two as one fraction, we get 11a minus 9a minus 3. Be careful with your signs, okay? 11a minus 9a gives 2a minus 3 over 6. And this cannot simplify any further, so we leave it there. Okay, last example, and I've put in the reminder double minus sign here, be careful. So we've got this fraction here, 11a over 3 minus this fraction here, 1 minus 4a over 2. First thing you should notice, uncommon denominators. So we need to get it to a common denominator so we can subtract it. So lowest common multiple of 3 and 2 is going to be, have a think for a moment, just pause for a moment, have a think. And you would be correct if you said 6. So we've got to write both these fractions out of 6. So first fraction has a 3 in the bottom, so we need to double that. And we also need to double the top. So it's going to be 22a over 6. Second fraction, we need to multiply the bottom by 3. So we need to do the same to the top as well. So it's going to be 3 minus 12a over 6. And we're subtracting these, so it's 22a over 6 minus 3 minus 12a over 6. Write it as one fraction, so 22a minus 3. Remember that double minus sign, minus 12 or minus negative 12, so it's going to be plus 12a over 6. 22a plus 12a gives 34a minus 3 over 6. And then just check if there's any common factors you can take out. These share no common factors apart from 1, so this is my final answer. So please copy this one down, pause for a moment while you do that, and then you try the redo yourself, and then I'll go through it in a moment. Okay, so on the second fraction, we've got 3 and 5 on the denominators. So your first step should have been saying, what's the lowest common multiple of 3 and 5? Have a think for a moment again, and you should have come to the conclusion is 15. So we've got to change both these fractions to something out of 15. So 3 we need to times by 5 to get to 15, so we need to do the same to the top. So 11a times 5 gives 55a. On this second fraction, we've multiplied the denominator by 3, so we need to do the same to the top. So 1 minus 3a times 3 gives 3 minus 9a. So I've got 55a over 15 minus 3 minus 9a over 15. And writing this as one fraction gives me 55a minus 3. Remember the double minus sign, minus minus 9a, so it's going to be plus 9a over 15. Now collect the like terms. 55a plus 9a gives 64a minus 3 over 15. Check this can't factorise, which it can't, so this is your final answer. 64a minus 3 over 15. You're doing absolutely spectacularly well if you've got that right. Well done. If you haven't got it right, just pause the video, copy it down, just see where are you going wrong, see if you can put that right for next time. Okay? Right, so for a final set of questions, we've got these ones here. So please pause the video here, try as many of these as you can, and I'll give you the answers in a moment. So pause the video now, please. And for your answers, so again, pause the video here, make sure you mark these in green pen, give yourself a score out of 6. Okay, and that will mark the end of today's lesson, so thank you so much for listening. You've done really well if you followed along today, because some of these questions were tough, especially when we got to that double minus sign. So if you managed to do that correctly, you're doing really, really well. But anyway guys, thank you for your effort today, and I'll see you again in the next lesson, which is lesson 4, where we're going to be multiplying these fractions. Okay, see you next time.